You're listening to Crosstalk, Conversations with Kurtis. Crosstalk, Conversations with Kurtis is brought to you by...
You know, there are few relationships more solid than the bond between a man and his barber. For years, I've gotten my cut with Gene the barber. Gene has been cutting my hair for more than 20 years. Call him directly at 240-687-7253 and make an appointment. Gene the barber, 240-687-7253.
A Squared Home and Office Solutions is the go-to source for home or office network and audiovisual solutions. We can help with smart home integration, wireless networking, media rooms, security systems, and more. We will link technology to your lifestyle seamlessly. Visit homeandofficesolutions.com for more info.
You're listening to Crosstalk, Conversations with Kurtis. Here's your host, Kurtis Cross.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the conversation. This is Conversations with Kurtis. I am your host, Kurtis Cross, and as always, I'm excited to be here with you today. Today, we're going to get into a great conversation, but first, I want to thank our sponsors, Gene the Barber and A Squared Home and Office Solutions. Be sure to connect with me socially at Kurtis Talks on IG and Twitter and www.kurtistalks.com. Also, take a listen to our other podcasts, Crosstalk, The Kurtis and Paula Show, a lifestyle, love, marriage, and parenthood podcast. You'll hear all about the day-to-day life of me and Paula. Also, Take a TO with Turner and O'Neill, a local and national sports podcast hosted by me, along with coaches Steve Turner and Casey O'Neill. Also, Ramblin' Teachers, a local teacher talk podcast hosted by a few friends of the Crosstalk family. And finally, the Midnight Truck Stop and 911 Radio. Both of these podcasts are hosted by Big T and the Blue Knight. You'll hear stories from truckers, 911 calls, law enforcement officers, and a host of interesting guests. All of these podcasts can be found on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, and wherever you get your podcast content. Once again, you're listening to Conversations with Kurtis. I am Kurtis Cross, your host, and guess what? I'm excited today. Today, I'd like to welcome to the conversation a woman who I've worked with on countless projects, from private parties to highly produced events, weddings and nonprofit events, and more. Defined by Design Events is run by Jana Robinson, the founder. Today's guest, and I welcome to the conversation, Jana. Uh-oh, wrong button. There you go.
Hi.
What's up, Jana? How's it going?
Hey, it's going great. Thanks for having me.
Of course.
Excited to be here.
Oh, well, you know, we do podcast stuff around here, so this is what it's all about. Jana, you and I have worked together for a number of years now. I did the research, and we first worked together in 2012 down at the Corcoran. And let me tell you, all these years later now, this is an exclusive. Can I just tell you how nervous I was the first time we actually met? So to set the stage for our listeners and viewers, I received either a call or email from Jana. She was working with a couple who was in search of a DJ for their wedding. That part was normal. But when it came to the interview part, you know, couples and planners want to curate the team that will be a part of the wedding day. Again, nothing different there. However, in this instance, the couple wanted a live demo to see if I was the guy. In the end, it all worked out. But until that point, I had never done a live demo for a couple. So the nerves were at an all-time high. It did work out. The wedding was wonderful. And here we are 9 years later, podcasting together. Jana, thanks for that opportunity. But tell me about that, how we first met. You remember more than I do?
Yes. Yeah. So that's actually a great story. I did not know that. You never shared that with me, that you were nervous about that. But yeah, that was actually my first time asking a DJ to do a demo for a client too. So that was really cool. I actually enjoyed that. So when I first reached out to you, I actually was just, you know, researching online, just trying to find some new DJs. I was really kind of new in regards to planning weddings, and I'd already been planning for years and years, but just in terms of like a really great wedding DJ, I wanted it to have a certain feel and vibe. So I started researching online, found you, saw that you were a 5-star DJ.
Uh-oh.
And, oh yes, 5 stars. And I said, you know, okay, read the reviews. I said, you know what, why don't I just reach out and see, you know, what he's talking about, get to know him a little bit better, see if it's a good fit for my client. And that's really how it started. It was really just honestly me researching DJs in the area. and you came up.
I'm glad I won the contract. It's more than a contract I won. We got a friendship, a professional relationship. And that couple whose wedding we did in 2012, I think you and I equally celebrate their anniversary each year because they are
great couple.
Strong. They have a great family. So I'm happy to see their success over the years. You know, I've never done things the easy way, and I have a script here, but you mentioned something that is off script that I'd like to get to. You said you looked at reviews. How important is it as a planner to look at the reviews? I know you have your group of vendors that you use from time to time and for your events, and you have people who are in certain lanes and that kind of thing. But how important are those reviews for those other vendors out there who are looking to create a relationship? How important are those reviews?
I think they're extremely important. I mean, they can come in different forms. I mean, you have actual written reviews, you have personal recommendations, you have testimonials, but it's really great when it's already kind of there and packaged together for you. If you're just doing a quick research online and you're looking for the perfect vendor and you see that they are a credible vendor, that they have other business and other success stories. And it's just, I take my vendor selection extremely seriously. And so I want any vendor that I choose to kind of match my values and my, vision for an event, also how I run my company. So I think it's extremely important to have great reviews and to be able to easily access them online. I think that's, that was a plus. And obviously it led me to you. But like I said, there's many different ways that I get my recommendations and vendors. And I think any type of positive referral or review really helps my decision-making process.
And it has to, because when you're curating these vendors, I imagine that couples or corporations or nonprofits, they look to you to bring them a team that fits what they're looking for. And if you have a weak link there, then it's got to come back to Jana, right? Jana, you recommended this this ice cream vendor, and they didn't deliver as they were supposed to. So that's got to be important. I can't let this moment go by without saying that image, one of those images behind you, is from that wedding we did back in.
There we go.
That one right there. And I think that's Procopio Photo, right?
Yes, they were the photographers.
I did a couple of events with them since then. They are off the chart. Excellent. They really are.
They do beautiful, beautiful photography for both events, actually. So they
actually do. Yeah. Oh, they did that one as well. The other one. Oh, I'm sorry. I wasn't invited to do that other event. Maybe I was. It could have been one of our staff members, but let's talk shop. Tell me, who is Jana Robinson and how did Defined by Design come to be?
Well, it's a long journey. It feels like forever ago, but then it doesn't feel like forever ago. I feel like it's been maybe almost 20 years that I have been in this business. But then in regards to Defined by Design, I started it in 2006. But I started it because I was working full time, actually in the buying retail world. And I did transition into event planning working for this company and knew that I really loved it. I loved events. I was doing events on the side with a group of girls, really close friends of mine. We started a little company called Hush, and we did networking events around the Washington metro area. And I knew that it was something that I really loved and really enjoyed. But when, as we know, when you're working in corporate America, there's things that happen. And unfortunately, that company was bought out by a larger company. And everyone lost their job, as to no fault of any of ours, but we all had to basically start to seek new work. And in that transition period, I kind of said to myself, you know what? Now is a good time for me to really do something for myself. At that time, it was more of not a backup plan, but it was like, I'm still going to go back into the workforce, but I love events and I want to kind of start this new company and have that just in case something like this happens again. So that's kind of how I started working on Defined by Design events in 2006, not really knowing until a little bit later down the road that it was something that I definitely was going to want to do full time. So it started off more as like a backup plan, like my passion, my hobby. I love events. Let me do this business and see where it goes. And then that developed into something.
At some point, though, you got to take that jump, right? At some point, you got to say, look, I've got health insurance. I've got a pension on this side, but
Mhm.
is that my passion? And at some
Mhm.
point, I've heard Steve Harvey say it, so I don't want to take credit for it, but you got to take that jump. And it ain't going to be easy, right? I mean, you're going to hit some bumps and bruises along the way,
Oh,
and
yeah.
your parachute might not open right away. But you've got to take
Right.
that jump, and you've got to believe in yourself. It's got to start there. But, was this always your intent to branch out, start your own business, and, you throw it up against the wall and see what sticks, or what were we doing there?
No, I think, when I planted the seed, when I first started getting it going, like I said, I was working full time. But the interesting thing with that is that sometimes people take the leap, and they take a leap from a different industry, right? They're working, let's say, as a banker, and then they go into, event planning, or they do something totally different from what they're doing during their
Start a
9 to
truck.
5. Yeah, I was
Right.
doing right. I was doing event planning in my 9 to 5. So the next job that I got was working for a nonprofit, and I kind of built their events department. So I'm building an events department for a large nonprofit, trying to navigate those changes,
Building
doing
that
a
resume, right?
1,000-person. What'd you say?
Building that resume, right?
Yeah, right. I'm like, oh, I'm doing, I did, great work. It was actually a really wonderful learning experience. And I also had a lot of leadership there that kind of helped push me and helped to support my business venture, or, my entrepreneurship ventures. So basically I'm in this position, and I'm working on my side. I'm calling it my side hustle, but I'm working on my business, right? Doing event planning on the side too. So I'd go to work 9 to 5. I'd come home, eat, say hello, to Keith, who's now at the time was not my husband, but say hi to him, and then get back to work. Like it's a nonstop hustle for me. I mean,
Right.
I went to bed maybe at 3 a.m. and then got up in the morning to go back to work. So it's like I had to kind of start building my business, and I took it really seriously from the beginning. And I think as I started building it and building it more, I realized, okay, I'm getting some clients now. I think for me, because I was already working in nonprofit, and people knew they could see what I do. They could attend my events, or they knew that I was serious about my work. And they could come to the galas, and they said, okay, I see what she's doing here. I wonder what she would do as defined by design. But they had that kind of base and foundation. So I got some jobs off of that, to be honest. And people said, hey, can you do my award show? Can you do my, wedding? Or can you do this for me? And I started building my clientele. So that took, 6+ years. That wasn't a overnight thing. It wasn't hey, I'm just going to jump out there and do this full time. I literally spent those years building my client base and feeling comfortable enough to a point where I said, hey, I have a nice, client base here. I think now is the time. And then, I had my firstborn son, Carter, in 2012. I had my firstborn son in 2012. And I think after I had him and I was on maternity leave, I said, when I go back, this is it. Like, I'm going to finish out. I'm going to do my last big gala, and I'm going to let them know that it's time. Like, I could feel it feel it in my soul, in my spirit. It was time to leave after all the preparations. And I was preparing, doing all the preparations.
So are you looking at my script? Because that's my next question. When did you turn that corner and say, this is now my career path? So it sounds like 2012,
Yes.
or, maybe
It was 2012. Yeah, 2012. I said, look, I have a good client base now. I have, I set up my logo. I set up, my design. I'm already a company. Like, I have the kind of the foundation here. And I'm going to start working on a website, and I'm just going to start doing more things to make it legit and get the ball rolling. And, I was nervous because I had a really great relationship at my job and with everyone there. And I didn't want to let anyone down. And I'm the kind of person, if I'm going to go out, I'm going to go out strong. So I said, I'm going to finish any commitments that I have.
Sure.
So that I can feel good about this transition. And they respected that and loved that. And the beauty of it is, Kurtis, guess what? When I said I was leaving, they said, no, we still need you. So we're going to hire you as, we're going to hire you to do the future events here,
Sure.
And I said, now that's the way to go. You say, I'm moving on to start my own event company. And they believed in me so much that they wanted me to continue on and continue.
So you went from employee to now you're one of their vendors, contractors, or they want to hire you anyway.
Yes.
So you're just that side hustle becomes the main hustle. The parachute opens, and here we are, right?
Yes.
So now part of you part of what you do, as witnessed in how we met, is to find reliable and professional vendors for your couples and clients. I imagine with your experience and years in the business, you found your preferred group of vendors to work with. What was that process like? Because, we're not going to tell any stories about vendors who didn't work out necessarily, but there are ups and downs. I know you threw a dartboard and I was the bullseye. I know that, but no,
Right.
What was that process like?
Yeah, when you're first starting out and you are building your vendor list and your vendors, your group of or your team, it is a little bit of trial and error. You kind of, again, it has to be like the right fit. I take my business very seriously. I want to be professional at all times. I want to make sure whoever I'm hiring or bringing into the event carries themselves in the same way. And so you kind of you hire them and you see, obviously you try to do all the background stuff and you interview them and then you have them meet with the client and then you get proposals and you have discussions. So it's definitely not, it's a process. It's definitely not like, oh, I really like their website. Right. I'm going to recommend that vendor for you. No, I take my clients through a process. They are a part of the planning. I don't make all of the decisions. I give my professional opinion. I give them vendors that I think will work. And then we do all of the other pieces, interviewing and bids and all of that good stuff. But if it doesn't work, I kind of know right away. Because luckily I haven't had any really horrendous stories, but I think you just kind of know as you're working with people. And I've just been really lucky to have worked with some really great vendors over my course of doing event planning. And you just kind of keep that circle when you see there's that kind of chemistry there in terms of how they work, how they handle themselves. Like I remember with you, right off the bat, I said, he's serious about what he does, right? Because you set up your meeting, you're like, look, here's all the things I'm going to do. I'm going to have a timeline, I'm going to work with the planner. We're going to make sure everything is produced well, get all your songs. You had forms, like you were, really organized and detailed, which I love. And so it's like little things like that when you're working with vendors and you're saying, okay, I take my craft seriously. I know they're taking their craft seriously. And we both want to work together to create the most successful event for our client.
In the events business, you work with creative types. And I think one of the roadblocks that I've run into from time to time is egos. And that's really tough because, at the heart of what we do, and this is not a podcast about my business or anything, but at the heart of what we do, you and I, along with the caterer, along with the florist, we're talking weddings here, along with the staging company, the photographer, all we want is the best day for our couple. Now, if that means that my toes get stepped on a little bit, I'm okay with that. I can check that at the door. And it's sometimes tough to find those vendors because this is not the Kurtis show. This is, Stephanie and Abraham's wedding. That's what it is. Yeah. And as long as we have to put out fires behind closed doors. And on the other side of that door, obviously, we have to produce the optics. We have to produce the experience, the feel for their guests. The filet mignon has to come out at the right time because the caterer is not going to serve a cold meal. All of these things
all the pieces have to work together.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love being a part of that,
Me too. That's my favorite part, actually. So seeing it all come together.
But for me, I'll be honest, I think what I call game day, I think game day is only a small fraction of it. It's all the planning to get there because if you and I plan well together, you and I barely even, not that we don't talk because we always do, but we barely have to communicate on that day because all the we have, you have loading dock times that are set up.
The part before that's the most important.
Boom, boom, boom. So I tell my couples, at least 50% of the work is done before we even get to your wedding day.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So, or even more maybe than that. You're right. All of the pieces. My favorite part is obviously the day when I see all the planning and the vision and the creative come together. But you're 100% right. I think sometimes people don't understand all that comes into the planning because they may see the beautiful side of it. They see the flowers and they see the food coming out, or they see
show up at 7 o'clock, right? And that's it.
Yeah, the little details, the place that all of these things are fabulous, and then they leave, right? But it's months and months of making sure that you're, double checking everything and planning and logistics and timelines. And that's how I am too. I make sure all my vendors have memos, and I want to make sure that we're all there on the same day to deliver top-notch service. And I think that's what clients remember. And I think that's what keeps them recommending you. And I'd say a large part of my business has been based off of word of mouth referrals, to be honest.
Right.
And that's, to me, also just as strong too, because it's like people really value the work and they want to tell a friend, or they want to tell their client, or they want to keep hiring me each year and, year after year. And that makes me feel great about the work.
Let me tell you, I'm still looking at that photo behind you from the Corcoran. There's one more thing about that. I don't even
know.
The
lighting you did too.
You were a part of. So that was the first time I'd used that much LED lighting. And as you can see in the photo, the lighting was incredible. They had a vision. I think we went from usually we use 8 LED uplights. This might've been like 16 or probably like 24. We had a ton of lighting. For those folks, I'll bring you back to that event. It was the Corcoran Gallery of Art. We're not talking about some small, 300 square foot, exhibit. We're talking about thousands of square feet of space. We're talking about an upscale event for what would become, or who would become, a prominent DC person. And so we taped down the cables, but the woman who ran the Corcoran wasn't happy with the way they were taped down.
I remember.
Exposed wire. So me and Paula are on our hands and knees taping everything down. But you know what? I learned then something that I sort of knew, but now knew full circle. Presentation is important. We're not going to have all these exposed cables. So I must have went through 2 or 3 rolls of gaffer's tape, trying to make sure everything was taped. I mean, I'm talking do you remember that room in the back corner? There was no one over in the back corner.
Yeah.
We were taping down cables in every corner.
Everything.
Yeah.
And but you know what? I appreciate that, because you know what? You also want a team that can adjust and make adjustments on the day of and get it done, and that's also important, because guess what? You could be the most perfect planner and you still may have something happen that day that you have to, navigate, or that you have to be
flexible.
It have to be flexible, and doing it in a professional way with a smile and say, look, I got this, I'm gonna get this done. That's exactly what happened that day. And so I really, it's really a gift to be able to do that, to kind of keep your composure when things sometimes may seem a little crazy around you, but to still smile. Because what I've realized too is very important is that how you conduct yourself at an event is really sets the tone for how everyone else is enjoying themselves. So if I'm running around and I look angry and upset and I'm yelling at that doesn't create the environment that we hope to have. So I also am very mindful of how I also like to conduct myself when planning and working that day. And I want everyone to feel great. Even if I know something's going on, that's with me and my team. Yeah, that's not for everyone else.
We have to deliver that experience. I learned from a guy a long time ago when I was doing nightclub DJing, you have a big promotion and 34 people show up. You were expecting hundreds. Our job is to give those 34 people the greatest time they can possibly have, that evening. And you've always produced that. I don't think, and we can say anything for the podcast when the camera's rolling, but I don't know that we've done an event that hasn't been a great success. And I mean, we're talking about the kinds of events where clients are calling the next week saying, Kurtis, I just want to thank you, blah, blah, because we have a team that is willing to work together. And I love the fact that we've done that. Now,
me too.
As is the case with life and career paths these days, you'll find many folks deciding, hey, I can do this too, but there's more to being an event planner than meets the eye. What were or are some of the challenges that people will face when deciding, oh, I planned my niece's baby shower. I could be an event planner now, right? You've heard that story, right?
Oh, all the time.
So
all the time.
I want you to go ahead and talk to that. I'm going to step away for 2 seconds. Sure. I have a gas fireplace here and I'm burning up. So tell people, what are the challenges when they decide, oh, I can just jump into this?
Right. So I understand that, I am in a business where the challenge is that everyone to a certain extent feels like they have a certain level of planning in them, right? Like you said, everyone feels like at some point they've planned something, which makes them sort of like a planner.
And everybody can be a DJ. I face that too.
Oh, really? I thought maybe
DJ.
Not so much with a DJ, because I feel like,
maybe. They have a laptop. They have an iPod. They can go ahead and do it. Why should they pay someone when, my cousin has a laptop and some speakers. But here's the thing, and I'm going to let you answer that.
Yes.
People don't find out until the day of the event that it's too late now to go hire someone. You should have hired them from the beginning, but go ahead. So what's the problem?
when you are a professional at what you do, it is a craft. It is something that you spend time, like any other profession. You go to school to be, a lawyer, you want to be in social justice or whatever your field is. You take the time to learn and study and really get into your craft. And a lot of my experiences was on the field. I didn't have to necessarily go to school, but I've been doing this for almost 20 years. And all of the trial and error and learning different styles of events and really understanding all of the pieces that go into it. You can't just be a creative, just have a vision. You can't just be that. You can't just like spreadsheets and like logistics, right? You can't just be a people person. It's all of these pieces together, but then really having the ability to really listen and hear your client, understand what they need, create something and produce something that meets that need. But then you have to bring in all of these different people, professionals, make sure that everything is logistically right and looks right and flows right. And the minute someone steps into the minute they leave, feels a certain way. It's like you're really like producing I'm not producing a movie, but that level of detail is there and it's important. And so that is a craft. And yes, you can plan a birthday party, and I'm not taking that against anyone who loves doing that. But when you're doing it as a profession, there's just all of those pieces that I just mentioned that are extremely important. But then you have the relationship side. So you have to know how to work with people and build great relationships. I think that's been the biggest part of why my company, I feel, has been a success, is because of my relationships. I don't just do a job and say, oh, I did that, and I walk away. I think there's something there beyond, the ability to be able to connect with people, I think is really, really important. And not just your clients, but everyone that you're encountering. So, I have one client that I've had for 12 plus years. They didn't have to come back to me. There's tons of planners that they could call on. But in addition to them, thinking that I'm a great planner and professional and all these things, they actually like me as a person too, right? Or they actually like working with me and they know they're going to get a certain quality. But again, being able to put all of those things into one bowl and do it successfully and really manage that. And let's not forget, you have to know contracts, budgeting, money, financial, I'm working with nonprofits, understanding sponsorships and donors and committees. I mean, the level of layers that it takes for the different types of events that I plan are really intricate and really detailed. And it takes someone who is a professional, in my opinion.
So Jana Robinson has to wear many hats. So you're on the finance side, you're on the relationship side, you're on the professional side, you're
creative,
on the vendor
design,
side, you're on the creative side. You got to look at that spreadsheet. You got to manage a guest list, and people don't get it. There's more to it than saying, okay, we're getting married at the Marriott Inner Harbor on June 1st, 2022. What happens when those RSVPs don't come back on time? What happens when someone decides, oh, I forgot to tell you, I have a peanut allergy, so I can't have this meal? What happens when someone shows up with 2 kids and this is an adults only event? All of these things have to be managed.
You have to change your whole floor plan or the whole layout, or you have to, or somebody, you have also are dealing with family dynamics and relationships and navigating families. And I mean, you sometimes become, look, my sociology degree comes into play often. Okay. I didn't know what I needed it for back then, but it definitely, I definitely use that often. And again, I think, I really love what I do. I've been, like I said, I've been doing it almost my entire career professionally, 9 to 5 to, having my own business. This is really pretty much all I've ever done. So when someone comes to me and they're asking me about, what I do and who I am and how I can contribute, all of those pieces I just mentioned before are really what I think I sell and I bring to the table. It's that the side where it's like, okay, yes, I have, a talent in event planning, or I'm able to do all these things as an event planner, but also Jana, the person. You can't get another one of me, I think you have to kind of believe in what you bring and your gift, in addition to all of the other pieces too.
So you say that's so very important. Again, we're going to go off script with that one. So we're not going to get into what you charge, because even if I asked you what you charge, it always 100% of the time depends. I did have a client recently who said, well, can you just give me a price for a 5-hour wedding? And, you can't, that'd be like calling a roofer and saying, hey, how much to put a roof on my house? There are so many details, and there's a vision that we need to have before we can provide a price. And while neither of us gouge our clients for pricing, we charge a fair price commensurate with experience and the experience that they want us to produce. But everything you mentioned, all those hats you wear, we don't break it down like this, but there's an hourly rate for all of those things that you have to do. And someone may say, why am I spending X amount of dollars for a planner? Well, it's also an insurance policy. We didn't mention that. We didn't mention the fact that if Defined by Design is behind this event, that's an insurance policy that this thing is going to go well. I've always used the example. All right, so Jana, you have Defined by Design corner store, and I have Kurt Cross corner store. If you sell a Snickers for $1 and I sell it for $1.50, you're going to get all the Snickers sales. I'm not. We're talking apples to apples. It's the same Snickers. But Defined by Design is not going to be the same price as XYZ events company because you're not getting Jana. And although you and I are
my team.
you and I are not, you and I are and are not a commodity, they're buying us. They're buying our experience. And I think what you mentioned is so very important. People have to like us. That's one of the things. You have to be likable. If Jana doesn't have the right disposition, she can produce great events, but if she's hard to work with, which you're not.
That'll travel fast. Trust me, if you're hard to work with. So as much as you value those reviews on the good and bad side, that can help or hurt, right? Yes, absolutely. And I think about that every time I'm working with I'm working an event or anything. I just really, and even with my team, I make sure that they understand that, we are providing a certain level of service. And that is what you get when there's companies that are on all different levels. And it's taken me a long time to work up to this. Like I said, it's not like I started, last year and I'm like, hey, look, this is what I require. I mean, I have, and it's taken me some time to really accept and say, hey, no, you deserve that. That's taken some time to get, and I'm still working through that.
You and I had to talk about that.
I know.
Because figuring out our value is important. Because again, we don't get into, it doesn't matter that we were doing X event on K Street Northwest or whatever. Right. But, you have, in my opinion, your unique position with your experience and what you produce. There were years where, you were, I guess, finding your way with that. And, to me, you have a high value because I know that if I send someone to Defined by Design, I can put the phone down, or I can make the introduction, and that's it. Jana's got it from here, and there's a price to pay for that.
Thank you. And I appreciate that, Kurtis. And, like I said, I think that's that journey of entrepreneurship where you're like learning, yourself and what you put out there and what you deserve. And it's a whole thing and a process. But I definitely, I think that's important to know your worth for sure in this business specifically. And another thing I did want to touch on too is, when you're hiring a professional planner, you also have access to their relationships and vendors too. And I wanted to mention that because, I have vendors that I've worked with for years, and you and I have had this discussion too, where it's like you have certain things that you kind of get from working sometimes with certain people. I'm not going to say specifically what, but I'm saying you have relationships for a reason, right? And that's what happens when you have been in the business and you have a linen company that you can go to, and they say, well, Jana, you're a preferred vendor of mine, so you get X, Y, and Z. That's a lot different than if I'm just on my own trying to find vendors and I don't know who to go to or what to do. I mean, I really have, I put a lot of pride in the fact that I've saved my clients a lot of money. Like, I don't go into it thinking, how is this going to serve me? I am always thinking about how am I going to help my clients, get the best quality product, but especially if it's a nonprofit, I'll speak specifically to that. If I'm working with a nonprofit and I know that they sometimes may have limited budgets, I'm going to do what I can do to help their bottom line, to help them, put food back in the community, or help whatever causes they're working on. So I actually have a genuine care for also who I'm working with and how I can help them. too. And I think that also makes a difference.
Well, Jana, when you say the word help, one of the first pieces of advice that I give to anybody in business when they're looking to make more sales is, I never, ever, ever try to sell my clients. I try to help them get where they want to go. It's not about the dollar figure. I heard one of the best rap artists of all time, KRS-One, tell a kid, when you hone your craft and you really work that craft, the money will chase you. You ain't got to go chase the money. So that'll be there if you're true to what you do.
Yes, true to what you do.
You try to help your clients. You absolutely do that. You and I have a relationship where, I'm not afraid to say it. When Jana comes to us, her pricing is going to be a little bit different than, the random person from, who just finds us online. Why? Jana has curated that relationship and puts us in circles where, we can be successful. And it's not about doing a successful event for Jana because I want to get the next gig. It's doing a successful event because these people deserve the experience that they vision from top to bottom. It's Jana's job to help create that vision. And by bringing us in, you've also taken away the hard part. I don't have to go find that client. You found it for me. And we've done some great, Jana.
And I'm hoping my clients will use, I'm hoping that I'm bringing together all these different, vendors and event partners. And I'm hoping that, they get more work because, you know what I mean? I want it to spread beyond just me. I'm like, if I know someone and they hit me up and say, oh, I was at that event. Who was that great DJ you were using? Or who, did the lighting or what? I want to give it right on back, spread the love. So.
And you've helped us to up our game. I know there was a time or two and please no hard feelings, but there was a time or two where you went with us for the DJ service, but there was a different lighting company. I'm like, man, I wanted to do that lighting. But you know what you did? You forced me to research the lighting industry more. And now my lighting game is, I have a warehouse full of lighting because
we
lighting.
need to talk about what all extra stuff you got going on over there.
Well, we haven't done a ton of work lately because of the pandemic, and that's changing. But we got some stuff, Jana.
Yeah.
We got. We're talking
well,
indoor.
So we can talk about that. Because I've used you for, not just DJs, DJ gigs, but for production stuff.
AV,
some of my nonprofits. Nonprofit clients.
Let me tell you, folks, Jana will put me on a rooftop on some 30-story building saying, hey, Kurt, we need lighting. We need to light up the sky tonight. What can you do? Jana will find.
You're not the only person who has told me this, but it's a good thing because I'd be like, Jana, you had me out there doing this one thing. And honestly, it worked, and I'm like, and that actually honestly makes me feel good too, because it's like, okay, I have a creative vision in my mind. I see it, but it's really cool to have a team of people that are like.
Let me interrupt for a second. Paula just walked in the studio.
Hi,
I just told Jana the story about the Corcoran and us being on our hands and knees taping. You should see
taping stuff down. Oh man, that was funny.
Yes. But now Jana will put you in circles where you're doing sound and lighting, and and actually that. You know what, Jana, you're the perfect guest because everything you talk about turns the corner right into my next question.
Is it that or I talked too much?
No. Literally on this script, it says, now let's turn the corner and discuss some of the fun we've had in supporting some of these events over the years. Again, the first event down at the Corcoran was truly amazing. Mm-hmm. In fact, images from that celebration became part of our promo kit. And again, right behind Jana. But let's talk nonprofits. Let's talk a bunch of stuff. The Real Housewives of Potomac. For those of you who do not know, as a bit of context, The Real Housewives of Potomac films locally here in the DC area. Jana was nice enough to bring us in to do AV support for some of their episodes. Again, as Jana has done in the past, she ushered in a new avenue for us with these projects. What was this like for you? You created and supported large-scale events in the past. It's a part of your resume. It's a part of your DNA. But The Real Housewives of Potomac was not a venture for hundreds or thousands of attendees. The stakes were a bit different. Of course, the work you did for these projects was a national audience. What was that experience like for you?
It was really exciting. I didn't go into it thinking that was going to be the outcome. I just, was just collaborating with a, former coworker, friend of mine, who is Robin, who's on the show. And we'd worked together on past events, and we were just, connecting and meeting up and talking about events. And it just kind of turned into me learning more about her projects, and she was doing an empowerment event at the time, and I thought
yes.
yeah, she is empowered, and I said, wow, that sounds exciting, and she was highlighting a lot of small businesses and business owners, and I said, this is something I would love to support, and I would love to help in any way that I can, and was able to bring in some of my trusted vendors to the event. And it was great because obviously, again, when I was helping with the event, I wasn't thinking about the magnitude of it. But then, once, we started filming the walkthrough and doing all of that, and I said, wow, this is really cool. And I was really grateful that I was given that opportunity to help out and to sort of step into a different side of production, because TV production is totally different.
Whoa, we're going to talk about that. Look, I walked into that place. Yeah. It's not one or two camera people. It's like 6 cameras. It's lighting. It's guys taping stuff on floors. It's women and men with these headsets and these clipboards talking about this. I'm like, I just want my little 8-foot table so I can set up my soundboard. Yeah. And there are mics everywhere. There's lighting everywhere. There's screens everywhere.
I love it. It was it was a lot of fun to see the behind the scenes.
Absolutely.
Part of that come to life. And it was a great experience for me. I was a very small part of, like I said, it was a very small clipping on the show and all of that. But I was grateful for that experience.
All that time, and it might be like a 4-minute scene. Right?
Yeah, right. You
were there all day. I was there. Let's say we started filming at 7. I must have been there at like 4 to 10 or 11 o'clock at night. Right. Let me tell you, the only negative thing I will say on this podcast today, how small was that elevator? We had to bring everything up on this little elevator. All the vendors had to get
all the equipment. Yeah.
There was a big, like a glass bar or something, wasn't there? A big bar. Yeah. I think those guys had to take the bar up the steps because
wow! All the behind the scenes beauty of trying to put a fabulous event together. But
when those cameras go on,
it's showtime, right? Yeah. But I was really there more. I was there as a support, and I was really happy to have vendors that I love also be able to have that recognition and have that have that kind of a little bit of shine on on that. On the show. So I really enjoyed that. And I enjoyed adding that part to my resume to say, hey, I helped with this. It was a great event.
I'm like, that's Robin. Can I take a picture with Robin? And she was so welcoming. And I think we did it more than once. And she was willing to take pictures at a couple of different events for me. But once I was able to talk about that event with folks like, wow, he's going to be on Real House. No, I'm not going to be. I think on the episode, you may have heard my voice on a mic. You may have. Right. It wasn't about me. That was a great experience. And
I'm very grateful for the experience. And it was fun, it's been great. And, I'm glad to support. And I try to, we still talk. And, I say, every now and then say hello. And, just excited for all her success as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Now, with your years in business, that was fun, of course. Mm-hmm. And the weddings we've done are fun. But what events do you simply rave at the opportunity to be your most creative? What really lights your fire?
I think, working with nonprofits, specifically social justice groups, I just really have loved working in the nonprofit social justice world.
You've always felt that way too. This is nothing new for you.
No, I've said this to you before. I think because it taps in, for me, it's more than just like the event. Again, I really love that I'm working on an event or helping fundraise or anything for an organization that's doing great work in the community and is about the community. And it sort of makes you feel like you've done something as well. Like when you finish that event and you see that because you've planned this event, they have 10 more donors now that they maybe didn't have before, and they were introduced to this organization through an event. I mean, there really are so many wonderful components to what an event can do for an organization and how important events really are and how they can open the door up to new constituents and new donors and new friends of the organization. And that makes me feel really good. I just really love it. And not only that, I love the partnerships that I have with these organizations. I love the relationships that I've built with them over the years. and they're very loyal to you, you know. I'd say the same with my wedding clients too, to be honest. They kind of work in the same way. It's like the sense of loyalty. It's like you do one wedding or you do one nonprofit event, and it's like, you know, then it's the friend of that person or the sister. Even I've done sisters.
There's your word of mouth, right?
All word of mouth. I mean, it's really honestly been a blessing for me to be able to say that my work, you know, kind of speaks for itself, and that people, you know, are sharing Defined by Design, sharing the name with others to say, hey, you should consider working with them. And I'm grateful for that. But I really do love my galas, large production events. I really enjoy production, to be honest, in terms of like, even like the lights come down and this visual comes up and we have dancers over here and this. And I've been able to do a lot of that over the years. And it's not, again, I've learned most of what I've learned from working with people like you that are like, and I'm, you know, looking on the contract, I'm like, okay, these uplights and this is connecting into what, and what is happening here. And it's like, I'm learning
questions over the
years.
No,
I do, because I want to know. I don't want to just say, okay, I'm hiring an AV company to do this and let them handle it. I want to know what's going on to the best of my knowledge. I want to know. And sometimes I'm bringing ideas to them. I'm like, you know, can the stage come up? Can it separate? Can smoke? You know, I come up with these things and they're like, yeah, let me see. But I think that's really all the fun part of it. So yeah, so definitely like large production, gala, nonprofit fundraising. I really do enjoy those.
Look, folks, this is not a soundbite. She has told me this for years. So I know this is what gets your goat. You love being able to get out there with the nonprofits. And let me tell you, once again, I can give a testimony here. You have brought us in on so many nonprofit events. Again, I found myself scheduling our DJs to provide sound support for small events, large events, outdoor events, under tents, you know, everywhere. And you've spread that out. And I think that's, your heart is right there. Over the years, Jana, all this great work you're talking about, you've been recognized for your work. Talk to me about some of these accolades and some of the circles you found yourself in, you know, being recognized for your work.
Well, so, you know, it's so interesting because, like I said, you know, I do weddings as a part of my business. At the time, you know, even when I got when I had my first wedding and it was recognized, it was interesting because, like I said, most of the events that I were doing were more nonprofit.
Go ahead. I know what you're going to talk about. Go ahead.
Well, no, I'm just saying, like, so Christy, well, you know, Christy and Robert's wedding, or should I say that?
I know.
Yeah. So I did their wedding, and so that was like the first time, like, you know, there was a potential or possibility of having me published in the Washingtonian, and that was super exciting for me because, again, I hadn't even gone out full time yet. So this was in 2012, and I'm like, wow, like, you know, how cool that this will be in a magazine or that my work will be published in this way. And again, I was still working full time, you know, at my job. And the cool thing about that too was that everyone knew what I was doing. It wasn't a secret. It was supported. I made sure that, you know, my work, my 9 to 5 was handled. The work that I was doing there was that. I didn't cross any, you know, crossover while I was doing my side hustle, and everyone really supported me. And so it was something even I could share with my coworkers and say, oh my goodness, you know, look, this happened. And everyone was really excited about it. But yeah, the Washingtonian, I've been, you know, really excited to be featured in there a few times actually for my weddings. And so the other wedding behind me too, that was also in Washingtonian. And then I had another one recently, like 2 or 3 years ago as well. So anyway, the Washingtonian has been a great partner. And then just really just, you know, continuing to put my work out there. Television, you know, there's been, you know, events and galas that I've worked on that have been featured on, you know, Fox 5. I did, you know, a segment with Channel 7. I'm just really kind of navigating publications and, you know, being on network. So anyway, it's been a combination of a lot of different things. And then most recently is exciting because obviously we're, you know, coming out of the pandemic and all of that, you know, just work, you know, reaching out to different companies that support small businesses like mine that are really, you know, we're putting a push on supporting small businesses during these times. And so I was really excited about some of the grants that I recently was able to receive. One was through Comcast Rise and the other was through NAACP and Be Good. which is Beyonce's foundation. And so those were really exciting because, I had to do, video and some work to get those grants and to be recognized, or to have my company, have them say, okay, I really like the work that you're doing and I want to support your business and I want to support your company was inspiring. It was great. So
No, absolutely, absolutely. And you have to, your business must be viable, and you're doing that great work that's getting recognized. And so this is the fuel that's going to take you into 2022, 2032, and beyond, wherever your vision, will take that. Jana, what advice? Here's the thing. So give me some advice for those wanting to get into the events business.
Well, I think that there are obviously many ways you can get into the event business. I mean, you can actually go to school and study, to do event planning. If that's the route that you want to go, there are plenty of really great event planning programs that are available that you can actually go and take courses and learn about event planning and get certified. Or if you want to go the route of just going into the field and, seeing, I recommend the experience part of it first, though. I mean, you can start off with just interning, volunteering for an event. If you see there's a big event happening in your area, contacting the organization and saying, hey, I'd like to volunteer, and getting in on the back end there and seeing how things work. If you're in a professional circle and you are interested in sitting on a board, or, there's different avenues to get to event planning. It's not a straight shot. Like for me, I started working in event planning on the corporate level, and then, kind of that went along, from there. And then also I started doing social networking events around the city myself with a group of my friends. So I think, if you're interested in event planning, I do say, though, do the research, learn about the industry, learn about what it takes to be a successful planner, and surround yourself with mentors and people that you can talk to and get information from. It's an information also field. Reach out to people, get information, see if you can meet someone for coffee or call someone. And again, see if you can help out with their event. It doesn't have to be something that you're being paid to do. But I think, again, there's just multiple ways you can get into that.
And so here's the thing. I'd like to give this advice, piggybacking on yours. If you send out emails, you call people, and you get some doors closed, it wasn't in your fate to work with that person, because those who are event professionals, those who have achieved a certain amount of success and experience, don't mind sharing the love, don't mind sharing it, because we know, I'm in my 40s now, and at some point I've got to retool the system with some young folks who can come in and help support what I'm doing, because this is not Kurtis's business. I want this to be a generation beyond me. So if you get doors closed, you got to keep knocking on those doors. That wasn't a door for you. Many roads lead to Rome. So if you're on, Route 1, that might not be the route for you, but send out those emails, offer to buy someone coffee. Heck, if it's a great opportunity, buy them lunch and say, hey, you have an hour, I can sit down with you at this cafe. I would just like to pick your brain. And hopefully by the end of the conversation, you're on a schedule to meet, with them in 3 months to work an event with them.
Yeah. And the worst they can say is no, and again, that's even something that over time too, it's like, hey, if you want something, there's no harm in asking or reaching out or just introducing yourself. There's never going to be a negative in that, so, like you said, if someone says no, or they don't have time, or they don't want to speak with you, that's okay. There's plenty of people out here in this industry that want to reach back and help and want to share information and knowledge. Anytime someone reaches out to me and says, hey, can we chat? I love it. I love talking about events. I love sharing. So I just believe that that's just a part of what you should do, to be honest. I think you should be inclusive and try to share as much information as possible.
Absolutely. Jana, this has been a pleasure.
It's fun.
Now, I'm going to get on you now. It's been too long since we've had some FaceTime, and even longer since Keith, Paula, you and I have been able to sit down to a meal together. We enjoyed a great bottle of Moscato, I think,
I know.
a few years back. So we must get that.
We have to do that. We're going to get that on the schedule.
We will. How can people connect with Jana Robinson and Divine by Design?
Yeah, so you can follow me on Instagram, defined by design _events. You can follow me on Facebook, Defined by Design Events. I'm also on Twitter. same thing. And also my website is definedbydesignevents.com. So you can check out my website. I'm also on LinkedIn as Defined by Design Events. I mean, I'm on all of those channels. So
if they can't find you, that means they didn't want to find you because
you
you're
didn't
out
want to find me. I would love to have people come and reach out, and I'd love to share more about what I do and the type of events that I love to work on.
Well, let me tell you guys, she is worth finding. She has produced great events. I can't count the number of events we've worked together. None over the past year, unfortunately, but we're getting back to that.
Yeah, thank God.
Jana, hang on for a second. I'll see you in a moment once I wrap this episode up. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks to today's guest, Jana Robinson of Defined by Design Events.
Thank you.
Jana, I'll see you backstage in just 1 second. I really appreciate your time today, so thank you for being here. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is Crosstalk Conversations with Kurtis. Don't forget, you can find me socially at Kurtis Talks, www.kurtistalks.com. You can send me an email, kurtisandpaula@gmail.com. Don't forget to check out our podcast family, The Kurtis and Paula Show, Take It to Yo with Turner and O'Neill, Ramblin' Teachers, and of course, The Midnight Truck Stop and 911 Radio. You'll find our family of podcasts just about anywhere you get your podcast content. Thanks for joining the conversation today. Thanks for Jana Robinson from Defined by Design Events for being our guest today. Feel free to spread the word. And as always, thank you, Khadijah. We'll see you next time.
Crosstalk Conversations with Kurtis can be heard on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Music, and just about anywhere podcasts can be found.
You know, there are few relationships more solid than the bond between a man and his barber. For years, I've gotten my cut with Gene the Barber. Gene has been cutting my hair for more than 20 years. Call him directly at 240-687-7253 and make an appointment. Gene the Barber, 240-687-7253.
A Squared Home and Office Solutions is the go-to source for home or office network and audiovisual solutions. We can help with smart home integration, wireless networking, media rooms, security systems, and more. We will link technology to your lifestyle seamlessly. Visit homeandofficesolutions.com for more info.